Nanabulele, who shines in the night. From the Lesotho people of Lesotho. Long, long ago, when the parents of our grandparents were still children, there lived 3 orphans, 2 boy children, and their sister, Takani. When their father was alive, he was a great chief. But now he was dead. It was their sister, Takani, who had to take care of them like a mother. She had to grind the corn and make porridge. She had to bring in the meat and cook it from the hut. She had to pour water into the clay pots so that her brothers would not have to drink from the spring like dogs. It was she who took care of them. And when the time had come for the brothers to attend the tribal school, it was Takani who took them. They spent 5 months in the huts of the Mafota. And when the time had come, she prepared the skins for them. She prepared the weapons for them. She prepared the clothes for them, and traveled and took them up into the mountains. But when the brothers saw the clothes, they refused to accept them. They said it would not become them to be loosened from the huts in the same way as all the others. They said they would stay inside of those huts until they each received a skin blanket, a kados, a cap, and the skin of the Nanabalele, those horrible creatures whose skin shines in the dark, like the moon and the stars shine in the dark. And then Takani asked them, why do you ask the impossible? Where can I find the skin of the Nanabulele? She asked them, but they looked at her and they said, you must. And we will not come out of these huts until we have received those skins. So Takani had to step back. She had to think about what must happen. And she thought.
Takani decided to send word to the village. And she sent the word, and it spread and spread and spread and spread until everyone in the village got the word. When they had all gathered around, Takani poured her heart out to them. She said, you must send with me the bravest of all the men in the village to walk with me when I go to find the skin of the Nanabolene. Chaway, they called. How can you, only a woman, undertake such a task? If my father were alive, he would have gotten the skins of the Nanabolele for my brothers. Chaway, they decided, and they understood. And so they gathered a large gathering of all the bravest, and they sent a pack of oxen, a pack of sheep, calabash full of beer, and sweet corn balls made with ground corn. They sent all of this with Takani as she began her journey to find the Nanabolele, those awful creatures with skins that shine in the night like the stars and the moon. And when they had began the journey, they came to a large stream, and they thought surely the Nanabolele would be in this stream. And so one of them took the hind legs of an oxen and threw it into the water. And the waters began to churn. They began to tremble. They began to churn. And Takani sang this song. Nana Bulele, Nana Bulele, sons of the chief, they want skins. Nana Bolele, Nana Bolele, sons of the chief, they want shields. Nana Bolele, Nana Bolele, sons of the chief, they want hats. Nana Bolele, Nana Bolele, sons of the chief, they want shoes. Nana Bolele, Nana Bolele, Nana Bolele, Nana Bolele. And as they sang the song, the waters trembled and trembled, and they thought the Nana Bolele will surely come, but out jumped a frog. Karoo, 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 the frog said, go further. You must go further where you can get the poison plant and dip the husk in the waters. Go further.
They obeyed the frog and they went further. And when they reached the last stream, there they thought this must be the place where they can find the Nana Bolele. But the stream was broad and the stream was very, very calm. And at that time, another frog jumped out. And he told them the same thing as the first frog. You must go further. There where you can take the husk of a poison plant and dip it into the river. There you must go. And so Takani sang her song again, Yeola, Yeola. And the waters began to tremble, and the waters began to churn. Ka-ting, ka-ting. And they looked in the stream, and nothing happened. And then when they came to the last stream, they started throwing in meat and oxen and meat and oxen. And then the waters began to boil. It began to boil as if it was under a large fire. The reeds grew higher and higher. And something strange began to happen. This must be the place where the Nana Bolele lived. And each person in the village stood bold with their spears pointed out, waiting. But nothing happened. All of a sudden, an old woman appeared. And she said, follow me. And they dived underneath the waters. But when they came up, they were in a large village where there were no children. There were no dogs. There was no water. It was completely dry. But the village was that of a great chief. And they wondered and they looked at the old grandmother. And the grandmother replied,
there's no one here. They ate them all. They ate the cattle. They ate the dogs. They ate the sheep. They ate everything except me. For my skin is old and wrinkly. They don't want to eat my skin. They keep me here to cook for them and take care of them. Those awful monsters. The Nana Bolele, whose skins shine in the night like the stars. Takani thought, oh, perhaps the old woman had set a trap for her. And the old woman assured her, no, I heard your words. You dare much. I will hide you. And she took them to the reeds and hid them behind the reeds and covered them so that when the Nana Bolele came, they would not see them. And sure enough, as they were peering out of the reeds, they heard a sound. Aduma, 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 Aduma. It was the Nana Bolele. The Nana Bolele dove into the waters. But when they came, they said they were tired from hunting, but they started walking around going, foop, 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 foop. They were sniffing. And they said to grandmother, "What is that smell that smells like the stink of human?" The grandmother said, "Wait." And they said, "We will find the stink." They walked around. They looked everywhere in all the huts. And finally they were so tired they said, "We must lay down. But when we awaken, we will find the stink of the human, and we will find the humans." And they laid down. And when they began to snore loudly, loudly, the old woman went and told Takani and her people, "You must kill one of the Nana Bolele and take the skins and go as fast as you can." And so they did. They took the largest Nana Bolele and they killed it and they skinned it and they rewarded the grandmother with cattle and oxen. The grandmother said, "You must go quickly, because when they awaken and find you have killed one of them, they will hunt your spoor." Oh! And grandmother told them to rush quickly.
Grandmother, before you leave, can you please, grandmother, please give us some of your wisdom. Please give us something that will help us on this journey. Grandmother gave them a pebble iron stone. And she told them, when the Nana Bolele are after you, I want you to place this stone on the ground. This stone will grow into a mountain, and I want you to climb that mountain. But climb that mountain as it is growing. Do not wait until it gets too high. Climb the mountain, and there you will find your asylum. So Takani took the pebble and put it in her pocket and traveled with her people. And when the light began to break through the darkness, she began to run, and she saw red dust clouds in the sky. And she began to run quickly. She began to run, and soon she heard the footsteps of those horrible monsters. Those horrible monsters whose skin glows in the dark, like the moon and the stars glow in the dark. They came upon the people, and Takani remembered the words, the wisdom of old grandmother. And she placed the pebble down, and it grew, and it grew, and it grew. But before it became too high, her people traveled on top of the mountain, and there they were safe. The Nana Bolele chased them and started climbing on top of the mountain. But they slid down because the mountain was made of iron stone. And soon all of the Nana Bolele fell asleep at the bottom of the mountain. Takani and her people kept going and going and going until they reached their village. When they reached their village, Takani organized, and she planned, and she strategized. And soon she understood that she had more than what she thought she had at first. She looked out on the village, gathered up all the dogs, and when the Nana Bolele became to a point where they had all awakened and they came after the villagers, now they did not recognize that they were not in their home, but they were in somebody else's home. And Takani set the dogs on them.
This they did not expect. And so, when the Nanabolele saw all the dogs that had been organized, all the dogs that were tired of them, they turned around and they went back to that village where the old woman was, back to that village at the bottom of the waters, back to that village, and they took those dust clouds with them. And Takani stood, and the rest of the village stood, and she was satisfied. Takani searched for a skin maker, and she found someone who was skilled in the making of skins. And he made 2 shields, 2 blankets, 2 hats, and 2 pairs of shoes. And when it was ready, Takani took those skins and those blankets and all the clothing to her brothers and presented it to them in the huts. And there they were loosed into manhood. And they put those garments on, and they were proud because no one in the village had garments like that. In fact, no one in the whole countryside had garments like that. And they rewarded their sister with 100 pack of oxen. And that's where the story ends, but not before we realize that we all have Nanabolele in our lives. We have had Nanabolele to prevent us from gaining our freedom. But we gather together in unity. We never stopped fighting for our freedom.
And on that journey for freedom, we always remember what the elders gave us, the wisdom that they gave us, the resilience that they gave us, the victory of a never give up spirit that they gave us. Always remember that the community working together in unity is what we need on this quest for our freedom as we celebrate Juneteenth.
And we always knew our purpose. And so when mountains were put in our way, we climbed those mountains and we found freedom in the village. We climbed those mountains and we overcame those mountains. And then we set the dogs of pride, the dogs of education, the dogs of love and courage on anything that would stop us from our freedom. Namakulele.